Did you know that some fish can have worms? Yes, you heard it right. It's a fascinating topic, really. Worms in fish are more common than you might think. These little creatures, often invisible to the naked eye, find their way into the bodies of our aquatic friends, making them their homes. But why should this intrigue you? Well, it's a fascinating insight into the complexity of marine life and its ecosystems. It's not just about the fish, but also about the worms and how their interactions shape the underwater world we know. And today we'll be focusing on 10 specific fish known for having worms. From the popular salmon and tuna to the lesser-known red snapper and halibut, we'll explore how these worms affect them and what it means for us, the people who may end up eating these fish. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's explore the interesting world of fish and worms. Starting off our list is the salmon, a fish well known for its worm inhabitants. The salmon, a favorite among seafood lovers, is often host to a type of worm known as anisakis. These worms are parasites that latch onto the fish's stomach, absorbing nutrients and disrupting the salmon's normal digestive process. It's a symbiotic relationship of sorts, though certainly not a pleasant one for the fish. It's worth noting that Anisaki's worms can also pose a potential threat to humans. When consumed raw or undercooked, the worms can latch onto the human digestive tract, causing a condition known as anisakiasis. This can result in severe abdominal pain and other digestive issues. However, proper cooking or freezing methods can effectively kill these worms, rendering the salmon safe to eat. But it certainly adds an extra layer of intrigue to your next sushi dinner, doesn't it? Next time you enjoy a salmon dish, remember, it might have had a wormy passenger. Next up we have the cod, another fish that commonly carries worms. Now don't let the thought of worms put you off your next fish and chips meal. The cod worm, scientifically known as Pseudoterranova decipiens, is a parasitic nematode that often infests the cod. These worms lodge in the muscles of the fish, becoming a part of their anatomy. While it's not a pleasant thought, it's a natural part of the marine food chain. Cod worms are generally harmless to humans, provided the fish is cooked thoroughly. However, if consumed raw or undercooked, these worms can pose a risk. They can cause a condition known as anisakiasis, a parasitic infection of the gastrointestinal tract. So, it's crucial to ensure your cod is well cooked before consumption. This will kill any potential cod worms, making the fish safe to eat. Certainly gives a new meaning to the term cod liver oil, doesn't it? Moving on, let's look at the herring, a fish that's not immune to worm infestations. Now, herring are widely consumed worldwide, but they aren't exempt from the risk of carrying worms. One such worm is the herring worm, or Anisakis simplex. This little critter burrows into the muscles of the herring, causing discomfort and stress to the fish. The worm is invisible to the naked eye, making it a silent, stealthy invader. But what does this mean for us? Well, if raw or undercooked herring is consumed, these worms can potentially get into our system, causing a condition known as anisakiasis. Symptoms can range from mild gastrointestinal discomfort to severe allergic reactions. Therefore, it's crucial to ensure herring is properly cooked or frozen before consumption to kill any potential parasites. So, next time you're enjoying a herring dish, remember the tiny warriors that might have once called it home. Who knew that a tiny herring could host such interesting tenants? Next on our list is the red snapper, a fish that's known to harbor worms. Now, this might make some of you squeamish, but it's a fact of life in the aquatic world. The red snapper can often contain a type of parasite known as Anisakis worms. These thin, wriggly creatures take up residence in the muscle tissue of the fish, living off their host. Anisakis worms have a fascinating, if somewhat unsettling, life cycle. They're passed on when a fish eats another infected creature, continuing the cycle. These worms don't just affect fish, though. They can potentially impact humans too. If a red snapper containing Anisakis worms is eaten raw or undercooked, the worms can cause a condition known as anisakiasis. Symptoms include severe abdominal pain, nausea, and in rare cases, allergic reactions. But don't let this put you off enjoying a delicious red snapper. Proper preparation and cooking can kill these parasites, making the fish safe to eat. The red snapper, beautiful, tasty, and occasionally wormy. Halfway through our list we have the sardine, a small fish with a big worm problem. Now, sardines might be tiny, but they do pack a punch when it comes to hosting worms. They can contain a variety of them, with names that are as long as the fish itself. Anisakis, a common nematode, is one such unwelcome guest. These worms can take up residence in the sardine's digestive system, impacting its health and in turn affecting the larger marine ecosystem. But here's where it gets a bit unsettling. If the sardines aren't cooked properly, these worms can potentially be passed on to humans, leading to an uncomfortable condition known as anisakiasis. The symptoms range from mild gastrointestinal issues to severe allergic reactions. So the next time you're enjoying a can of sardines, remember to check for any squiggly surprises. And as always, ensure your seafood is thoroughly cooked. Sardines, the small fish with a big worm problem. Next, let's talk about the tuna, a popular fish that's not exempt from worm infestations. Now, tuna, a staple in sushi and sandwiches alike, can become a host to a type of worm known as anisakis. These worms are parasites that attach themselves to the stomach lining of the tuna, feeding off the nutrients that the fish ingests. Here's the kicker. Anisakis worms don't just affect fish. If we, humans, consume raw or undercooked tuna infested with these worms, they can potentially latch onto our digestive tract too. Not a pleasant thought, right? However, it's not all doom and gloom. Proper cooking or freezing methods can kill these worms, making the tuna safe to eat. So, the next time you're enjoying a tuna sandwich or sushi roll, remember the journey it's been on. Tuna, a fish that's as well known for its taste as it is for its worm inhabitants. Moving on, we have the mackerel, a fish that's known to harbor worms. This common sea creature, found in both temperate and tropical seas, can become a host to a variety of parasites, including several species of worms. These can range from the relatively benign, such as the common roundworm, to more harmful species like the codworm. The presence of these worms doesn't just impact the mackerel itself, they can also have implications for us humans when we consume the fish. If not properly cooked, these worms can potentially survive within us and cause health issues. That's why it's always important to ensure that your seafood is well cooked, or, in the case of sushi, frozen prior to consumption to kill off any potential parasites. The mackerel, with its beautiful blue-green body and streamlined shape, is a favorite among many sea predators. But it's not just the big fish that are interested. It seems the humble worm has quite an appetite for mackerel too. Mackerel, a fish that's as popular in the sea as it is in the worm world. Next up is the halibut, a large flat fish that's known to host worms. Now when we say worms, we're not talking about your garden variety. These are parasitic worms, many of which have a particular fondness for the cold, deep waters where halibut thrive. The most common culprits are roundworms and tapeworms. They latch onto the halibut, living off its nutrients and sometimes causing significant harm. It's not a pretty picture. But it's not just the fish that need to be concerned. Humans who consume undercooked or raw halibut can also become hosts to these unwelcome guests. Now don't rush to cross halibut off your menu. Proper cooking kills these parasites, rendering the fish safe to eat. Still, it's essential to be aware. Knowledge is power after all. So here's to the halibut, a fish that's as fascinating as it is flat. Halibut, the big flat fish with an equally big worm problem. Last but not least, we have the swordfish, a fish that's known to harbor worms. The swordfish, a species revered for its power and speed, is unfortunately not exempt from the unwelcome company of worms. These parasites, often of the anisakis type, find a comfortable home within the flesh of the swordfish. The impact of these worms on the swordfish can range from negligible to severe, depending on the extent of the infestation. In some cases, they can cause damage to the fish's internal organs, leading to health issues and in extreme cases, mortality. But what about us humans? When properly cooked, eating swordfish poses little to no risk as the heat kills off these parasites. However, if consumed raw or undercooked, there's a chance these worms can end up in our system, leading to a condition known as anisakiasis. Swordfish, a majestic fish that's not immune to the world of worms. Well, there you have it, 10 fish known to have worms. From the powerful salmon swimming against the current, to the humble sardine darting through the ocean, worms are a common thread. They weave their way through the life of these fish, sometimes causing harm, other times simply coexisting. We've explored the world of the cod and the red snapper, both of which can harbor these little stowaways. The herring and the mackerel, too, are not immune to this reality. The mighty tuna, the versatile halibut, and the majestic swordfish, all are part of this wormy narrative. It's important to remember that the presence of worms in fish is a natural part of their ecosystem. While it may seem unappealing, it's a reality of the aquatic world. And, while we must be mindful when preparing and consuming these fish, the worms themselves are often harmless to humans when proper cooking methods are employed. Remember, the next time you enjoy your favorite fish dish, it might just have had a wormy history.